From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Friday, December 19th, 2014. Silver is trading at $15.92 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,198 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $313. Antiwar.com reports congressional leaders continue to express outrage at President Obama's announced plan to normalize Cuba relations and are promising to block the effort. Can they? Not likely, according to experts who say the president has considerable leeway to curb the embargo against Cuba unilaterally, and Congress has limited options as far as stopping him. That's because even though a number of congressional leaders are lining up against the rapprochement, the polls show broad support among Americans, and they probably won't be able to muster a veto-proof resolution. Public animosity towards Cuba has faded over the last half-century. Business interests are lining up to cash in as the U.S. normalizes its relations with Cuba and indeed brings its policy in line with the rest of the world. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Bitcoin Not Bombs. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. Reuters reports a Washington-based journalist has sued St. Louis County and one of its police lieutenants, saying his rights were violated when he was arrested while covering protest over the killing of an unarmed teenager by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Gerald Yingst, a reporter and producer with News to Share, also accuses police of defaming him by announcing his arrest on Twitter and saying he had refused a commander's order to clear the street, damaging his professional reputation. He was one of two people detained on November 22nd during one of the nightly protests outside the Ferguson Police Department as a grand jury mulled whether to charge Darren Wilson with the shooting death in August of 18-year-old Michael Brown. The lawsuit by Yingst, filed on Tuesday in U.S. District Court in Missouri, named St. Louis Police Lieutenant James Vollmer as a defendant and says he is being sued in his individual capacity. It also sues St. Louis County for allegedly failing to train and supervise Vollmer and for defamation. The lawsuit says Yingst was standing on the sidewalk outside the police headquarters, recording attempts by police officers to clear protesters from the street, when Vollmer allegedly pointed at Yingst and told a group of patrolmen to lock him up. Protesters and other reporters standing alongside Yingst on the sidewalk were not arrested. The lawsuit added that no reasonable officer would have believed that defendant Vollmer had probable cause to arrest Yingst. For over 35 years, Robertson Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and permanently removed the minimum purchase order for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Robertson Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 850-478-5270 or online at rrbi.co. UPI reports in a lawsuit filed Thursday with the U.S. Supreme Court, Oklahoma and Nebraska argued that marijuana bought legally in Colorado is leaking across their borders. In their complaint, the two states argue that Colorado's legalization of recreational cannabis is unconstitutional. Voters in Colorado and Washington state voted in favor of legalization in 2012 referendums and have since been joined by Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. Legalization in some states has led to a dangerous gap in federal enforcement of drug laws, according to Oklahoma and Nebraska. Lawyers for the two states said marijuana flows from this gap into neighboring states, undermining plaintiff states' own marijuana bans, draining their treasuries, and placing stress on their criminal justice systems. Attorney General John Suthers said the lawsuit has no merit. He suggested that Nebraska and Oklahoma are mainly concerned about the federal government's failure to enforce its own drug laws. The Obama administration has said that states that legalize cannabis must ban sales to minors and take steps to keep cannabis sold legally from getting across the border. Recently, the Justice Department said tribal organizations can also decide to legalize growing and selling of cannabis as long as they meet those standards, even if they are in states where cannabis is illegal. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.